Okay, we're just a couple minutes past our scheduled start time. So I know we have some people that are still trickling in, but I'm going to go ahead and just get started in order to respect everybody's time. And good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Tisa. I'm the Director of Litigation Technology here at Aptus Court Reporting. I want to thank everybody again for joining us in our, I guess, continuing webinar series. This one regarding remote depositions, this one titled How to Effectively Manage Documents. And just to make sure everybody knows I'm here live, I'm going to turn on my camera real quick and say hi to everybody. Thanks for joining us again. So we've been doing this for a couple months now, remote depositions that is, and we wanted to focus this one primarily on managing documents and how to present them, how to share them, and things of that nature. So again, this is a webinar, so it's only a one-way communication. You're only going to see and hear me. But if you have any questions, there is a Q&A box down at the bottom of your screen. If you just hover down there and submit any questions in there, we'll save some time at the end to make sure I address as many as I can. The chat feature is disabled, so you won't be able to type anything in there, but we will be using that a little bit later when it comes to presenting documents. I believe I allotted about 1 hour for this webinar. So what we're going to do is maybe not take up that much time, but I want to make sure, like I said, to answer as many questions as I can. So with that, we'll get started. So one of the things I'm seeing a lot or hearing a lot when it comes to this document management is it becomes daunting. So like, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? What's going on here? How do I get the witness to see it? How do I see it? How do I actually get the documents to everybody? Okay, so I put this quote in from a movie of Ocean's 11 because it's not as complicated as this quote here. Document management, if you go through some of the steps before and during the deposition, it can alleviate a lot of hesitation. And that's something that Aptus can certainly help you with in the demos and even throughout the deposition. And we can talk about that as we go along. So as I mentioned briefly earlier, we're going to talk about naming structure, organization. How do I get my documents ready for a remote deposition? Okay. Cloud storage, all right? What does that look like? What does that mean? How are we going to be utilizing this? This will come in handy when it comes to getting Aptus to documents, and may even come in handy if you are trying to present the exhibit yourself. It'll especially come in handy if the Aptus tech is presenting the exhibits. And then actually presenting the documents. We touched on that briefly. How are we going to see these documents? How's everybody else in the session going to see them? We'll touch on that. And then finally, I was playing around with the name of it. It's a do-it-yourself alternative. It's something a little newer, but some of our clients who are taking more remote depositions, and I dare say a little more tech savvy in terms of presenting and managing their exhibits. There's an app, and we'll talk about that a little bit. It'll be more of a preview from one of our next coming webinars. First off, naming structure and organization of your exhibits. Obviously, the paper route and going to a deposition where you have boxes, binders, folders, that's all out the window. So how do we organize and gather all of our exhibits when it comes to presenting them remotely? We'll start with the naming structure. That's always a big one. What's the best thing to do? So we have a couple different options for that. The first option is where you title the exhibit, pre-mark it, and then name it or give the name of the document. So for instance, we know exhibit 1 is going to be our global coverage doc, exhibit 2, notice of Aptus sample remote depo, exhibit 2A, exhibit 3, so on and so forth. This is one way to do it, okay? This is maybe if you know obviously what exhibit number you're going, or what document you're going to use and what exhibit number you want it to be. That works for some depositions, certainly not all of them. So option number 2 is to actually omit the exhibit names, the exhibit heading, and just go with the actual document name. What this does is it lets you, okay, I have all my documents. I don't know what number, what exhibit number I want to mark it. All I know is I want to use it. It just depends on how the answer goes or how the deposition goes. That's totally fine. And to tell you the truth, this is actually the most common, most common way we've seen our exhibits labeled, exhibits named. So when the deposition comes, they're they're calling out to the tech, bring up the depo or bring out the data entry from call log, and we'll mark that as exhibit 1. Okay. A third one is very, very basic. We've seen this a couple times where they actually, the clients actually only name it by the exhibit number. I know exhibit 1, exhibit 2, exhibit whatever, so on and so forth. That's going to be perfectly fine as well, because you still have to identify what that a document's going to be. And remember, when you get your final transcript, there's few things that are remaining consistent in this COVID-19 era, and that's going to be your final transcript. So if you want to name your exhibits like this, that's totally fine, because you're going to get that exhibit index when the transcript comes. So it'll be marked exhibit 1, and then of course the definition of the exhibit, what that document is. So again, I'll back up and just talk about the 3 different ones. We have the exhibit number with the document name, the actual document name, or just the exhibit number. And again, this one and this PowerPoint slide will be available, of course, along with the recording after this webinar concludes. But this is the main one. This is the one we see the most. And it really is up to you how you want to name your documents. We do not have any strict naming protocols. It's however it's going to help you best take your deposition. Talked about cloud storage. What this does, okay, we set up a way for you to get us the exhibits, okay? We create a folder called Box, which is a cloud-based sharing platform. What basically happens is you tell us, you know, what your email address is, and we're going to actually set you up with a Box account, okay? You'll get a invitation like this, okay? And within that invitation, you'll be invited to upload your exhibits to a folder, okay? It'll look something, let me go ahead and pause my screen and flip over here. Okay. What that actually does is it gives you the ability, excuse me real quick, let me just stop the share and start something new. Basically invites you to a folder where you're allowed to upload documents, and then Aptus has everything at the ready for you. So that means we'll be able to assist you when the deposition starts, because we'll have all your documents ready to go. So the folder looks like this, and you can drag and drop documents in there as you please. And these will be the documents that are used for the deposition. We encourage that, so we're able to assist you when it does indeed come time to present those documents, and then we'll have access to it during the deposition. And just, excuse me, I'll flip back to the PowerPoint slide here. Okay. So now that we have the exhibits, you've prepped, you've got your naming structure down, you're good to go. We have the exhibits ready to go at Aptus. So day of the deposition, we're ready to go. And now let's actually talk about some of the ways we can present these exhibits. Okay, so we have several different things we do here, okay? And we'll go over each one individually. First things first, Zoom has this, we'll call it what it is. It's a screen sharing feature, okay? So I'm going to stop my screen again. So basically, when you're in the deposition, we are able to bring up a document and let everybody in the session see it, okay? So for instance, I'm going to open up a document independently first. And then when I share it, okay, everybody should be able to see, yes, the same document. Everybody in the session is now seeing the Aptus Court Reporting sample of notice language, okay? Now we can start examining the witness on this particular document, and everybody in the session is seeing the same thing. That's great, okay? The problem you may run into is, what if it's a multi-page document, okay? We're going to get to that in just a second, but while I'm on this, I wanted to show you a couple features that are built into Zoom that some of our clients have been using. More specifically, the annotation features. We have a couple options to help guide the witness where they want to go. For instance, we see a lot of our clients using a spotlight feature where it acts pretty much like a laser pointer. So you're able to just kind of come over here and show them where you want them to go on the document. Look here, look here, look here, etc. You do have the ability, and we get some questions on this. We do have the ability, or I guess, you have the ability, along with the witness, to actually mark and annotate on these documents, okay? The important thing to keep in mind when it comes to annotating is it's not actually marking the document, okay? It's actually doing an overlay. So when you save these annotations, it's going to do basically a screenshot. So anything that's on the screen, how it sized and everything, is going to indeed be saved. So you're not actually marking the document. I know I've seen some webinars where they're saying you can use the Adobe built-in highlight features, which you certainly can. But the problem with that is you have to enable a remote control feature for the witness to control your screen. What that does is kind of a security FYI. When you grant somebody the ability with remote control, you're actually inviting them to control your computer, and they have access to your computer. Okay, so we will want to be very careful when it comes to granting access to anybody's computer. What I would recommend is that you have the witness use annotation features, and that's something we can certainly walk through with the witness when we do a test and a demo with them. I do have a question popping in. This is a good question. Does a court reporter or the individual attorney share the document via the screen sharing feature? Great question. Okay, so it's actually either going to be you as the attorney or somebody from your staff would have screen shared capabilities where they could share it. Or what we've been doing a lot is the tech, the Aptus tech, who we can arrange for you to have on your session, will be able to assist with presenting these documents. So that's a very good question. Okay. As we move on here, let me stop my share and come back to the PowerPoint. Like I mentioned, there are several ways to actually get the documents to the attorneys, to everybody else in the session, including the attorneys, maybe more importantly, the witness. And we're going to talk about some of the ways we've seen it and what's been working, what we recommend, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the webinar, so you won't have some of the features you would normally see in the Zoom meeting, but if everybody sees that chat box down there at the lower part of your screen, you would have that right here like you see in the actual Zoom meeting. And as a taking attorney, or as the attorney that's helping present the documents, okay, when you click that chat box, you're going to see something that pops up to the side there, okay, and you'll see this little file icon. This is going to be great because this is one of the ways, like I said, you're going to be able to transfer the documents within the deposition, all right? So when you click on it, it's going to give you several options. There's 3 cloud-based integration platforms you can use. I actually don't recommend using those. We'll show you another way to do that outside. I would actually recommend selecting a file on your computer, okay? And what that allows you to do is come anywhere, if you have a designated folder, you're able to grab that and it's going to come through and you're able to download that within the chat box, okay? That's one way to do it, to transfer the actual file, okay? What happens there is sometimes people are unable to download it, or they're getting error messages saying I can't download it, or they just don't feel like downloading it. Or a lot of our clients don't want the ability for anybody to download it. They just want them to give viewing capabilities. So what we've been doing at Aptus is actually recommending something like this. I'm actually going to use the chat feature right now. You all should have the ability to see this. So when we're presenting exhibits, okay, and exhibit 2 comes along. We'll just call it exhibit 2. I don't know why I started with 2 and not 1, but if you go down to the chat feature, you should all get a message, I believe. Let me know if you don't. Oh, excuse me. I need to send that to everybody and not just the panelists. It would help if you guys had it. 1 second, please. Okay. Everybody should get a link like that's sent, okay? When you click on that, assuming you're on the latest version of Zoom, if not, again, we can assist with that when we do the tests and the demos. All you have to do is click on that link, and that's going to take you to the document, okay? That document, it'll be viewed in the browser there, and that'll allow you to view it in its entirety, should that even be a multi-page document. That's very easy to handle. We do that. That is the most common way, and that alleviates the need for anybody to download an exhibit or the need for anybody to create a separate folder on their computer. And it also just gives them the flexibility, should they not have a certain software, to be able to browse it in its entirety in that browser. And one of the other things we do, I'm going to do this again, just so you can see. This is the other way we like doing it, is when we do introduce an exhibit, notice the heading, Exhibit 2, and then the link. That helps everybody keep track of what exhibit, how to get back if they have to refer to a previous exhibit. You could just scroll up and down to the chat window and easily access the exhibits, okay? The other thing we do is we actually create a folder where we can, all the documents that you gave us, those are going to stay separate. Nobody's going to have access to those in the deposition. What we do is we actually create a separate folder, should we want us to do this. And what that does is give you access to all the files that have been introduced as they've been, as the deposition has proceeded along, okay? So that means if they don't want to click on the link, or they lose the chat feature or something, because an important note, if you do get kicked off the Zoom session and have to join back in, you actually lose all of your chat history. So you would not have access to the document. So we would set this up as a backup for you, and then that way you'd be able to access all the documents that have been submitted in the deposition. Okay. One of the other things we're seeing, we're having a question about, is when it comes to exhibit marking, what's the best thing to do? I wanted to actually address that briefly, if I could, just because there are several ways to maybe do that, or maybe not do that, but to talk about it. Let me bring up this exhibit again, just so we can see some of the functionality that we do indeed have and we can help you with, but 1 second, please. I always recommend letting the court reporter do it, not maybe necessarily stamping it yourself, okay? Just because it's one extra thing you have to do. There may be one more thing that could delay the deposition, but there are some quick stamp features that the tech could help you with, should you have that. So very simple process. You just come up here and there's some plugins you can do. You can download them yourselves, or we can certainly do this for you. And all you have to do is select this document as a customized stamp, mark it as the exhibit number you want, and then of course it is marked, and then it will be submitted with the transcript. So we can certainly mark that for you as the deposition goes along. But remember at the beginning when I said, if you just identify the document number, or excuse me, the document name, and then tell us what exhibit you want it marked as, the court reporter is going to take note of that, and then she would mark it with the stamp right after, after the deposition. And when you get your transcript, okay, you're going to have this exhibit sticker. It'll be a little bit more defined. It'll have, the deposition date, the witness name, much like you're used to seeing when you receive your official transcript, okay? But should you want us to help you mark exhibits, we can certainly help you. The Aptus Tech would need to do that. We could talk about what plugins and what exhibit stamps you can get if you want to mark it yourself. But this is certainly one way to stamp the exhibits, and we can certainly assist you with that. Okay, and I'm going to swap back over to my PowerPoint, because there is one do-it-yourself alternative, as I mentioned, that I wanted to talk about. And like I said, this would be a little more, well, like I said, maybe not necessarily for the more tech-driven people, but a way if you want to mark the document yourself. And this is something we can give training on, and we're going to do another webinar on this. So I'm actually going to, if you give me just a second, move over to an iPad, okay? There is an app called Trial Pad. It's an app you buy. I believe it's $125. I don't want to go give too much information away. I want you to see the actual functionality of it. So what it does is it's actually meant for trial, okay? And it's a way to present evidence at trial, but we're finding a couple of clients are really using it for their depositions. And let me show you some of the functionality of it. Just 1 second, I'll bring it up. I'm going to stop the share here as I swap back over to my iPad. Okay. Okay, so you're going to see a little trial pad for iPad icon that should be popping up here soon. So there it is right there. Okay, so this is what everybody's seeing. Now, when it comes to introducing the exhibits, I've already pre-uploaded this to the app, okay? So I'm going to bring up just a regular picture, and once I present it, now everybody in the session can see it, okay? And then since I'm using the iPad, you're allowed to zoom in, pinch in, and use a functionality you would of a tablet while you're sharing the iPad. Now, I forgot to mention, I apologize for this, the screen share feature, okay? There's actually an iPhone, iPad, I don't know anybody that still has an iPod, excuse me, an iPad sharing option. And you would need to be on the same Wi-Fi network for this to work. Again, that's something we'll go into the in depth in our actual webinar regarding this. But what I wanted to show you was how easy it is to swap back and forth between documents just using the iPad, and everything is already preloaded on here, and how quickly you can bring documents up. And maybe most importantly, yes, there is a way to mark this as an exhibit. It's very easily done. I'm doing it all behind the scenes, and there it is. There's your exhibit sticker, and then you're able to export this out. You could share this. You could share this exhibit, excuse me, with everybody using the links I showed you, and you can, of course, also upload this or share this from the app to a dedicated share file account, or excuse me, a cloud-based account, or email it. Actually, while I'm on this, just so you can kind of see the back end, I am going to come back and show you the back end, just so you can see what I'm working with. So this is actually everything I have, cases loaded up in my iPad. And what you were seeing, you were not seeing this, of course, but I was seeing everything. So I'm allowed to come in here and have all my documents preloaded, and then just bring it up whenever, okay? Whatever document we want. And then notice the buttons down here at the bottom, okay? We have our output, blank, freeze, and present. The output button was turned on. So when you do that, the screen acts as a second monitor. That's why you couldn't see my back end, which is what we don't want. And then you would just hit present. But the main functionality of that is what I wanted to show in terms of how easy it was to emit the exhibit, or excuse me, to show the exhibit, and then mark it with an exhibit stamp. And then up here is where you would actually find a way to either email the document out, or you can upload the document. And here there are several built-in platforms that you're allowed to use, including Box and Dropbox. And what that does is, of course, when we mentioned that shared account we have for all the participants in the deposition, that Box account, where you can indeed upload this to whatever platform it is, and then everybody would have access to the mark exhibit. So again, the do-it-yourself alternative, if you are an iPad user, of course, you would have to have an iPad and, of course, a software, or the TrialPad app, but look for that webinar coming up soon. I just wanted to kind of give you maybe a different way to think about when it comes to presenting your documents, and of course marking the documents as well. And I'm going to go ahead and take a sneak peek at my question and answer here, and let's see what we have real quick. I think we answered that one about who marks it. Okay. Is it possible to see a smaller window of the individual speaking during the screen share? Well, what happens is, you know, when you're on a deposition, when the deposition is going and you do share the screen, of course, the exhibit is going to be the dominant image. And then what normally happens is, if you're in full screen mode, everybody is going to fall off to the right down the line in film strip mode, okay? So with that, there's no way to resize those boxes. Those are all predefined by Zoom. So whatever size the box is, you're going to have to kind of just I don't want to say deal with it, but that's unfortunately, there's a limitation there. You can't resize the boxes when you're in full screen mode. I hope that answers it. If not, please let me know how I can elaborate on that. Okay. Here's a good one. How do I keep counsel from passing notes to witnesses if they are at the same remote location, especially when screen sharing is showing exhibit and I cannot see witness and counsel? Okay. Well, we can't prevent that, unfortunately. The only thing we can do is, you know, we have a list of admonitions that we can send you that we're seeing now that the depositions have indeed gone remote. what we recommend to parties when they are giving the admonitions at the start. We can email those to you, and we'll give you some contact information. Please let us know, and we can certainly pass that along to you. And one more here. Yeah, we could certainly, this PowerPoint will be available online, and so will the video recording. I know I threw a lot at you, but just wanted to make sure if there's anything else I can answer. I said there wasn't a whole lot of content, but I wanted to make sure I left plenty of time for question and answer. It looks like we've kind of come to the end. I didn't want to take up that much time, but if there's anything else anybody wants to see, please, I would love to hear from you. Just submit something in the Q&A, and then we can, of course, proceed from there. I'll give just a couple minutes in case anybody does indeed want to submit anything. And since that's kind of the end of there, let me come back and give the contact information just so everybody has that readily available. And one thing I will say, while this is, of course, using the Zoom platform, a lot of the things, a lot of the same principles apply when it comes to using something like a WebEx or like a GoToMeeting. They're a little different in terms of how they're laid out, but you do have the chat feature, you do have the shared screen feature, and that's basically the same way we would help facilitate. We can, of course, at Aptus help facilitate those particular platforms, be it WebEx, GoToMeeting, now BlueJeans. We can help facilitate those should you have the need to use one of those platforms. But Aptus Connect, powered by Zoom, is, of course, our primary platform, and that's one we work with the most. But we are able to, of course, switch on over to another platform and do the same thing with setting up the box accounts and dropping the links in there and everything like that. Who do I contact for training and how long will it take? The information is right here. Go ahead and contact me or send it to our scheduling department, and we'll send you a link for training. And it can take up, we usually block out about a half hour, but we can certainly take as long as you need, and even schedule some follow-up sessions should you need it. And good, there's still, questions are still putting in. Can you put 3 exhibits side by side on the screen for the opponent to review and mark up? For instance, three MRIs. Okay, well, short answer, yes. You would really have to maneuver the screen. You basically be, let's see if I can do this real quick on the fly for you. Give me just a second. Let me help with that. So I'm going to bring up a couple documents behind the scenes. You have to maneuver the documents, which can get a little tricky, but let's show you what we can do. It's going to be, might take some practice doing it, but nothing is impossible in 2020. So I'm going to do a new share and come over here to my first screen. Okay, so I have a couple documents that are up. Let me just minimize something there. Okay, so trying to get to the actual document. So you have to, like I said, really maneuver the document. So you have to share your actual screen and then bring up the documents like this. But the actual share screen feature in Zoom only really lets you share one application at a time. But you would indeed be able to, in a way, resize the documents, have the tech help you resize the documents, and then of course you would get the full annotation features should you need them. Okay, stop the share there. Well, it gets too complicated. So as you can see, there are some limitations, but certainly you can try to do it best you can. And let me get back to our question and answer session real quick. Put back up the contact information. Yes. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Will there be a video recording option for depositions now? Yes, there will be. So you, and I'm going to kind of turn on my camera. I'm going to stop my share. And I'll turn on my camera so you can get kind of an idea of what you're looking at when it comes to the video recording. So as you can see, this is me. So while you may have several participants in gallery mode, well, the box view, if you will, where you can see all participants, the only thing that's going to get recorded as a standard is going to be a picture of the witness. So let's pretend I'm the witness. This is the view you would get. We would actually work beforehand to make sure there's nothing distracting in the background. They have a clean background in there, of course, positioned well enough to indeed be recorded. The only thing you would see differently on the final product would be a date and timestamp that will run across the lower part of the screen, indicating the date of the deposition, of course, the time, much like you would a regular deposition. And our remote videographers would not only be able to help you record the deposition, they would do the same process that you normally would in a in-person deposition, where they would go on and off the record, do a read on, and that same videographer could, of course, help you present your exhibits and help organize your exhibits and present them. Okay, so bring back up the contact information. Good questions. I appreciate you guys sending them over as we have some time. Okay. All right. Okay. What about sharing an exhibit that plays video? Is it possible to do that? It most certainly is. Okay, so I actually have an example right there. So a couple different things we can do here. Let me just bring it up for us real quickly. Get it prepped and ready to go. So we're going to play a demo excerpt real quick. Okay, and as we get ready to introduce this, everybody should be able to see this. Here's Mr. Bill Gates. Excuse me real quick. Let me try that again real quick.
(1975).
And what positions have you held with Microsoft since then?
Partner, chairman, CEO.
So that's an example of a video clip that you can send. Remember, you're sharing your screen. So whatever format it is, MPEG-1, MPEG-4, the other party will be able to indeed see that. There's an option, make sure, select your computer audio is shared, and it can certainly be played just like that. Okay, let me just look over some more questions here. Again, great question. Thanks for taking the time to send these out. Okay. Okay, Tim. Oh, we actually went over that. That's just okay. Okay. We actually, yeah, a lot of these are just kind of yes, you can, of course, you are able to allow others to share their screen, but only one person can share at a time. That's one of the big things, is you're not going to be able to dual screen sharing. We only have it marked where one person can share their screen at a time. Did that one. Okay. How do you handle exhibits brought to a deposition by the witness? Very good question. We kind of coordinate that beforehand. So if they do indeed have exhibits that they need to get to us, we would talk with them before, if possible, during the test and the demo, because we want to test all the participants before the deposition starts. I don't mean like 15 minutes or half hour before. We're hoping we can get at least a day in advance should we have to pivot and make arrangements for them to get them maybe some piece of equipment, or have them get a piece of equipment so they are able to attend the deposition. So what we would do is, like, do you have any exhibits? We would be able to set them up with a Box account, help them upload it to the Box account, or the old-fashioned way, I guess old-fashioned way, email us. They can email us the exhibits. Just kind of thinking off the fly. Before this pandemic, we've had a couple instances where there have been hard paper documents that expert witnesses have had, and they did not have the ability to scan it. I would imagine they probably don't have scanners at home. We would help them, if they do have an iPhone or a cell phone, either take a snapshot of it, of the document, and send it to us like that. We do have some alternatives. So if you think they may be bringing exhibits, we can, of course, help coordinate with that beforehand and make sure that we get everything we need leading up to the deposition. And I think that might answer the what about exhibits on the fly? Okay, so again, when you have the ability to transfer that file, the file transfer feature, if you don't want to upload it to Box, you can just send the file within the deposition. Let me go ahead and remind everybody what that feature was. Bring up the slide again. It's that file transfer option. right down here in the chat feature. So if you have it on your computer, if somebody emailed it to you and you wanted to download it real quick, if you just came down here to your computer, you would be able to select that file wherever you have it saved and be able to transfer it to everybody within the deposition. Conversely, we could also help you. Again, you could upload it to that Box account that we have set up for you, and then you would have access to it, and then the tech or whomever can grab a link and share it in the chat feature, much like we showed you earlier. That's a good question. That has happened before. Is there an added cost for one of your techs to help handle exhibits during the deposition? There is. We can email us offhand. We'll go over the hourly fee structure. We have 3 different tiers. No matter what happens, no matter what service you have, you're always going to have a dedicated technician at the very least, and that's going to be complimentary to make sure that there are no technical difficulties, meaning everybody's able to get connected, everybody can hear everybody, even though tests have been completed prior. You're going to have a dedicated tech to help ensure everybody stays connected. If anybody does log off, that tech will be able to quickly help that person get logged back on again. So there are no delays in that deposition. And then the other 2 tiers are if you want that tech to help present exhibits, they can certainly do that. But if the deposition is video recorded, that videographer, I think I mentioned earlier, is also going to double as your tech, or I guess triple as your technician for remote difficulties, as well as exhibit management. So you're not going to have 3 different people if you get all the way up to the videographer. That videographer is going to be well trained in not only recording video, obviously, but also helping manage exhibits. What we like to do is assign, we've dipped into our trial tech resources because they're used to presenting exhibits. As you can imagine, they're very good at troubleshooting. They're used to hearing that cadence, as you would call it, of presenting exhibits, bring up this document, can you go to this page, things like that. So we've made that kind of our standard is somebody that is presenting your evidence has at least presented evidence in the courtroom before, and that's worked real well for us. Here's a good one at the back. When it comes to the final deliverable, will exhibits be hyperlinked in my transcript deliverable? They absolutely will. You're going to get a full transcript that's hyperlinked, and you're actually getting a full transcript that's not hyperlinked. What we found is sometimes when you hyperlink the exhibits, they can get a little, we'll call it bulky, okay? So it makes the transcript hard to email sometimes because you're hyperlinking exhibits within there. So we give you both. We give you a transcript that is indeed hyperlinked, and also one that is not hyperlinked. And actually, I think I might, if I can pull it up real quickly. Yes, I do. I'll show you an example of that real quick as I have it in my arsenal. Let's see. 1 second, please. Okay. And yeah, so just scrolling down to the, let me show you real quick what that is. So I'll just share the second screen. Okay, so yeah, so basically here it is. So you can see they're hyperlinked, and this is just our sample transcript. But when you click on it, and what they're asking for those of you that may not be aware of this, when you send out a transcript, this is one of our sample transcripts. But let me zoom out a little bit. You'll be able to, all the exhibits that were introduced will indeed be hyperlinked within the transcript, attached to the transcript as well, but also hyperlinked for quick reference. So anytime you see an exhibit 1 or exhibit 2 or any exhibit number, you're going to have the ability to click on it, and it'll take you to that exhibit right away. So good question. Thank you for asking that. Okay. Let's see if there's any more. Okay, I think that was the last one. Okay. And let me just fly through to the last slide to get the contact information in case anybody still needs it. Looks like we don't have any more questions. I'll keep it open for just a minute or so if there's any last minute questions, or if there's anything I can address. Certainly happy when like I said, this was more of the document management side. kind of give you a higher level overview of what we can do when presenting documents. We're happy to offer any more in-depth demos as we have been for these last couple of months. If there's anything in particular you want to see, not just when it comes to document management, but also anything else, what the final product of the video will look like, and some of the ins and outs. We do, offer the breakout rooms within these depositions. Anything you want to know, just schedule a demo. Those are complimentary, and we're happy to go over anything you may need. And I think that's going to do it for the Q&A. Oh, we do have one floating in. What format is best to have exhibits in? Okay. Well, and you're asking follow-up PDF or native files. Okay. Well, I guess the good news is when we're doing cloud-based things, it's whatever you want to present your exhibits as. Okay. So PDF has long been the standard, and we can certainly present those, and we're not a problem doing that. But I do know we do have a lot of clients that are getting into native files. Okay. How do I present those? I need to have that Excel functionality. So basically, whatever format you want, we can certainly accommodate that. And I'm actually going to, I'll just go ahead and do it right now since I have it, again, kind of ready at the arsenal, or in the arsenal. So I'm screen sharing just an Excel spreadsheet, okay? So move that over there. This is on my computer, and I want to talk about this as an exhibit, okay? So we get all the full functionality of Excel, okay? So everybody can see if there's certain formulas, if there's certain headings that we need the native functionality. We can certainly do that with the screen share feature. The only thing you can't do with Excel files, and this kind of goes for Excel, Word, anything not PowerPoint, JPEG, or PNG files, you're not going to be able to mark it with an exhibit stamp. That's why I recommend having the exhibit heading, or we can mark it as exhibit 4, and you would, of course, we just get a placeholder, and then the actual exhibit file would be included on the back of the or excuse me, we include a disk at the back of the transcript, and we would have the Excel file in there. It wouldn't be marked because there's just no way to mark an exhibit file, or excuse me, well, an Excel file just yet. Good question. Let me a couple more questions. Okay. And real quick, I do want to show you one of the things we've been seeing in that box folder I talked about mentioning, mentioned, sorry. It's been a long day, folks. I apologize for that. You are able to, I'm gonna bring it up on the second screen here. What we found is sometimes if the witness doesn't have, they do not indeed have Excel. This is actually the Excel file that was, in that sample folder I told you about that we can create that has all the documents that's been admitted. So I'm going to click on it. It's going to give you a preview mode. This doesn't have the full function of Excel, but you're at least able to preview some of the contents, but you wouldn't be able to like go in there and changing the formulas. That seems to work a lot when it comes to some of the witnesses not having the software, being able to click on the link and preview it like this, and then they don't have to worry about getting a license or anything for Excel or incurring any costs. So again, that's something we can do as a standard, set that up for you complimentary if that's indeed the route you want to go. So just let us know when you schedule the deposition. Again, we can go over this in the one-on-one demo. They take about a half hour, but we can certainly talk about all of the options we discussed here on the webinar and go more in depth. Okay, and I think I'm going to kind of do a final call here. Are there any other questions before we conclude today's webinar? Okay, speak now or forever hold your peace. And I think with that, we're going to go ahead and end the session for today. Certainly appreciate everyone joining as you have in the past, and this is your first one. I hope hopefully you'll stick around and come back for more. Like I said, next week we are going to, I say next week, eventually we're going to have that webinar on the TrialPad app and how it can work in conjunction with Zoom, with the Zoom platform, and sharing it and using it to show exhibits and to mark exhibits as well. So again, as a reminder, this recording will go out to everybody tomorrow along with the PDF version of the PowerPoint. Any questions, I encourage you to email one of these contacts. You can email me, just so give you a heads up, time has no meaning for me anymore. So if I get back to you, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. It could be late at night, it could be early in the morning. I'll answer as I get to the email. So I appreciate your patience as I respond. And thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.